Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. Today, we have a special guest. We have Britt Bolnick, who is a successful business owner living a life that she truly loves in Maine. She has traveled from financial scarcity to financial independence, building a six-figure business that she does by supporting other women, all while being a single parent. So let's give a warm welcome to Britt. So welcome, Britt.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So tell us about your background. As it's not very often I get to interview somebody from Maine and then they have a successful business. It's like all over the place. You know, you particularly hear people are in California and other places, but not Maine. So how did you land in Maine and build your business there?
Yeah, well, to be fair, I started in New York City. I was born and raised in New York City, lived there until about 3.5 years ago. Was a single mom there, just really, stretching to make ends meet. And I had a lot of friends in Maine, and my daughter and I came back and forth quite frequently. And I had always wanted to move here, and it just felt really impossible. It felt really overwhelming. My mother's in New York City, and she was helping with my daughter, so that also felt really hard. And then I just, there was just this big catalyst. I broke up with the person I was living with, which meant, in New York City, you have to find a new apartment, which is, I can't think of anyone in the world that I would wish that on. Apartment hunting on a budget in New York City.
Ow.
Yeah. And my friends in Maine were just like, this is it. This is the time. Do it. And in 6 weeks, I came up here, found a place to live, went back home, bought a Subaru, packed a U-Haul truck, figured out how to drive the trailer attached to my Subaru, put my kid and 2 pit bulls in the back of the Subaru, and we moved up here and we haven't looked back.
Wow, no, that's incredible. That had to be quite the adjustment to go from living in New York City with all the amenities to moving to Maine, which is substantially different.
Well, it is different, but we moved to Portland, which is a absolute center of culture, arts. It's one of the fastest up and coming foodie towns in America. So what really happened was that we moved from a place that had all those things, yet they weren't accessible to us, to a place that was a fraction of the size, but also had all those things that were much cheaper and a much slower way of life, which allowed us to actually enjoy them. So we actually do a lot more living in and around Portland than we had time or finances to do in New York City. And plus there's, the ocean is a 3-minute the ocean is actually at the end of our street. The woods and the mountains are 40 minutes away. There's everything here. So it was less of an adjustment than day-to-day life in New York City.
Well, now that's incredible because I think so many people don't know what they don't know. So that's amazing that you're able to experience more, because sometimes we, as business owners, we get attached to places.
Yes.
And we don't realize that we can improve our quality of life by making a little shift of where we're living at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just from a business point of view, this is where my business exploded because I wasn't stressed. I wasn't running constantly. I wasn't living, there's a constant anxiety that I notice now when I go back to New York, and that my friends from New York, when they come to visit us here, see is missing. And that allowed me to really focus. It allowed me to be able to take care of myself in a way that I hadn't been able to in New York. And that allowed me to have so much more energy to grow my business.
Now, how did it allow you to focus more? Because I think with people who live in the big city environment, it's almost a foreign concept. But we have to have this stress, this hustle to go 24/7 on 30 minutes of sleep.
Yeah. I was just talking about this with a couple of clients last week. The cult of busy is eating us alive. And I think that there's this concept that the busier you are, the more value you have, or the busier you are, the more important you are, not in a self-important way, but it gives us structure and meaning. And it's fatal. Like, it's literally fatal. It's creating diseases and relationship mishaps and, parenting snafus that are literally impacting our lives in such a hugely negative way. And so removing those sources of stress so that I could actually focus on the things that were important to me, which was parenting my kid and growing my business and taking care of myself. For instance, just as a quick example, getting her to school in the morning in New York City was a 2-hour round trip for me that involved 12 blocks on either end, 12 blocks from my house to the subway, 3 flights of stairs, 20-minute wait for the subway, 40-minute ride into the city, 12 blocks to her school, 3 flights of stairs. Then I dropped her off and reversed it, and then did the same thing at the end of the day. That alone took up 4 hours of my workday. Whereas here, it's first of all, I actually have to, in transparency, say that I'm no longer a single mother. I got married in September, which is another thing that Maine brought me. Thank you. But now, it's a 15-minute drive to her school where we talk, and the seat warmers are on in the car, and it's cozy, and sometimes we get donuts, and then I come home and work. Or now my husband brings her because his daughter and my daughter go to the same school. So that's 4 hours back in my business day, just right off the bat.
Well, and that in itself makes a huge difference, because sometimes we get so used to certain things taking place, like that 2-hour commute, that you don't think about it and realize that those little chunks add up to a substantial amount, where if someone is building a business, they can now have more time to do it. Yeah.
And energy. Like, just the emotional and physical drain of that commute, and knowing that, at 1:30 I had to start it all over again, was exhausting.
Right. Oh, I can imagine that, you're, as soon as you're back home, you're in that grind again. Like, okay, you got to hurry, knowing that at 1:30 you have to start the trek to go back to the school and do that cycle again.
Yeah. Yeah. Just huge.
Right, definitely. So once you moved to Maine and you got settled in, what did you start doing to build your business there? Since obviously it's a different environment, and then also, let's say in terms of networking, or of having so many businesses that are right at your doorstep in New York City, what did you do differently?
Well, the first thing, and this was always a plan, it was always a plan to make In-Arms Coaching more of a virtual business, simply because I want to reach women everywhere. So In-Arms Coaching was never had a purely in-person development plan. So it didn't really matter where I lived. And that was sort of part of the reason why I created In-Arms Coaching, because I wanted this mobile lifestyle, or not mobile lifestyle, but I wanted options for myself and my daughter. I didn't know where we were going to wind up. I didn't know if I'd want to move to like a tropical island and just work from my Wi-Fi. So I created a business that was mobile and was not geographically specific. So that part wasn't really affected by moving to Maine at all, because the plan had always been to grow it internationally. But what was affected was that my friends who had been here, none of them are entrepreneurs or business owners. So, and I did have a lot of face-to-face connections in New York City who were entrepreneurs and business owners, like networking groups and meetups and all that kind of stuff. So what happened was I moved here and I felt very, very isolated, and I didn't have anyone who really got what I was doing or ways to connect. Luckily, Portland is also, in addition to being a foodie mecca, it's also an entrepreneurial mecca. It's a amazing place for startups, and the entrepreneurial scene, you just have to pick what you want to go to. There's something happening almost every night. So I tried a couple of different things and they just didn't feel like good fits for me. I'm a little bit out of the box, and the networking opportunities that I were finding were more of sort of like an LL Bean crowd, and I felt very conspicuous and outsiderish. And so I did one of the things that worked the best for me was I just started my own group, and I started reaching out to people and saying, hey, entrepreneurs, women business owners, I'm going to be here having coffee once a week. Come meet me. Let's talk about our businesses. How can we help each other? And that was really the seed of it. That was really what started it growing. And from there, I just, so much of being an entrepreneur is about how you show up. And I just showed up. I started going to things. I started hosting things. I made friends. I did lunch and learns for a while. That was a way of growing my business. I just made connections and made friends.
Oh, excellent. And those are all the things that are part of it, because I think that one of the biggest adjustments that anyone goes through is what you did, is that isolation, that suddenly you go from, let's say, that corporate environment to being an entrepreneur, and you don't have everybody that's just a cubicle over or the next office over. It's you and sometimes your dog.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yep. So true.
So you end up having to do things differently. So obviously you had the intention of growing it virtually. What were those steps that you took to start creating that success that you've had in your business to grow it virtually? Because that's what I think a lot of entrepreneurs are stuck at. They're like, well, what do I do? How do I get myself out there? Like everybody in my little village knows who I am, but the rest of the world, they're like a total stranger.
Yeah. Such a good question. One of the first things that I did from the beginning, actually, even a week or two before I knew what in-arms coaching was going to be, was I hired a coach because I know my weaknesses. I'm an amazing idea person. I am challenged when it comes to follow through. And I knew that was going to be one of the pitfalls. So I hired a coach who I knew could help me create a plan that actually had me doing what I do best, which is having a great idea, but then actually contributing to it and working towards it in a persistent and consistent way every day. So that was one of the first things that I did, and that was really helpful. I don't know how long it would have taken me to create my definition of success if I had been participating in the delusion that I have to do it alone and that I should be able to do it alone. The second thing that I did was to make sure that I'm working from clear goals, and then that the goals are broken down into steps that are small enough that I don't get overwhelmed, which sounds like a detail, but actually what keeps people back a lot of the time is that steps are too big and people get overwhelmed and then they just throw their hands up in the air. I see that happen a lot with my clients.
Oh, definitely. And that's something I see as well, because you look at the world we live in and there's that constant pressure. You have to set these big, massive goals, which is fine, but unfortunately, they're so big. It's kind of like someone saying, all right, on your plate for lunch today is an elephant. Good luck.
Have at it.
Right. And you only have salt and pepper and a spoon to do it with.
Yeah. That's such a great metaphor.
And then people get stuck versus doing what you did there. You had a coach who helped you get clarity and break it down into the bite-sized portions so you can take action on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really important because not only did she help me stay sort of persistent and consistent, but she helped me see the big picture and then work back from it. And then she helped me with the inevitable walls that I hit. And I'm sure you know about these walls, but they can be disabling. They can be crippling. When I hit a wall of like fear of visibility, or when my inner critic voice was like, why are you even trying this? It's going to fail. Or when I tried something and it didn't go the way I planned. All those are walls that entrepreneurs hit that can really be showstoppers if you don't have support.
Right. Now, how do you get past those fears? Because I think, like you said, people get stuck there, but they don't have that simple tool, something that gives them that GPS, that guidance that helps them either go over the wall or around it. Or people just go straight through it.
Just bulldoze, just run right through it.
Right. Right, exactly.
My favorite tool is often when overwhelm or procrastination hit, the reason is that the goal is too big, the step is too big. So if something is feeling too big and you're getting overwhelmed, to break it down smaller. Like, okay, what if I just stood up, like got up from the table and did the next best thing? And then because, a body in motion stays in motion, it's much harder to get moving and much easier to keep moving. So if one thing isn't happening, break it down smaller. Get it smaller until you can do it, and ask for help is such a big, I cannot stress that enough. When I see women, especially women in business who are laboring under the delusion that they have to be doing it all, they feel terrible. They hate what they're doing, and what they want isn't even happening most of the time. Or it's happening, but it's costing them their sanity, their self-care, their relationships, their health.
Right. And those are all important things.
Oops, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now I hear you.
Okay, yeah, that happens sometimes. I'll just do a little tweaking of that. It's sometimes technology. You gotta love it.
Yeah, we can put men on the moon, but we can't always get a clear podcast going.
Right, like darn that technology, but that's all right. So, okay, so let's see. What was the last thing you said? That way, then I'll continue off of the next question from there. What was the last thing that you said?
Just about getting support, in that one of the pitfalls is that when we try to do it ourselves, either it doesn't happen or it happens, but it costs us, our self-care, our relationships, quality of life issues.
Okay, great. And I'll just jump to the next question here. Obviously, then, support is so critical, but then how does someone decide upon who's the right person to help them? Because, when you look at online, especially Facebook, people see ad after ad of, here, I'm a coach. It's like, okay, I'm in a stadium full of coaches. Who's the right one?
That is such a great question, because, coaching is an unregulated field right now. Anyone can be a coach. So there are a couple of things that I look for when I'm hiring team, and I'm not hiring coaches anymore because I have my coach, but I think that it's the same thing. One of them is to steer clear of the grandiose promises. So I've actually gone to coaches' pages who say on their landing page, if you work with me, you will be making $20,000 to $30,000 a month. You know what? Anyone who promises that blindly on their landing page is full of it, because they don't know what kind of business you have. They don't, that's such an unrealistic promise. And to me, it means that they're just sort of flashing things before your eyes and hoping to manipulate you into buying, because you really want to be making $20,000 to $30,000 a month. So the first thing I would stay away from are people who are promising things that they can't possibly guarantee. The second thing that I would really look for is someone who will let you talk to their clients. This happens all the time. Women will come to me and they'll be really interested in what I'm doing, but they say, is there any way that I could talk to a couple of your present or past clients? And I say, absolutely. And I hook them up with my clients and they get to talk to them. So someone who will be really upfront about what they're doing, how they're working, the results that their clients are getting, and how their clients feel about them. And then the last piece, which is probably the most important one, is to go with your gut. A lot of people have an inner knowing about what feels best and who's all sort of flash and smoke. And that's really important to honor, because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, your best weapon is your gut instinct, your inner wisdom. And the sooner you start to use that, the better. So those are a couple of sort of red flags / magic wands to help narrow it down a little bit. I've also heard that there's and you might know this, I forget it, but there's a tool where you can look up someone's website and see the evolution of it. So for instance, if someone is saying, well, I'm a 7-figure coach now, you can actually look up their page and see that like 4 months ago, their page was like a hobbled together WordPress site, and, they were selling packages for $109. And you can pretty much say, you know what, I bet in 4 months you didn't get, you can kind of call them on it, but I'm forgetting what that is. But some research is the bottom line. Some research. Are they doing what they say they're doing? How long have they been doing it? What's their track record? Can you talk to their clients? And how does it feel to you? And be wary of the magical promises. I'll help you grow. The big ones right now are 6 figures a month, 5 figures a month, and growing your community to like 10,000 in the next 6 weeks, that kind of stuff.
Right, exactly. The tool that you're referring to is called Wayback Machine.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
And it's a great tool because you think about how many things on the internet are unfortunately like tabloids, not true. So you have to do a little bit of research to find out, has this person consistently been showing up? Or like you said, were they just peddling low-end stuff a couple months ago and suddenly, I am now your internet guru. Wait, you were selling knives and dishes last week. How did this transformation occur overnight?
Exactly.
Not that there's anything wrong with knives or dishes, just saying.
Right. But obviously you haven't been doing this for years and years. So, and here's the and you're not being honest.
Right. Exactly. And there's so much of that going on right now. And it's I don't want to say it's disheartening, but there's people who end up having that bad experience. And then they feel like they're stuck because it puts that sour taste in them. Like, oh, well, the last time I did it, that didn't work. And they now have this mentality, I'm never going to, say, run a Facebook ad. I'm never shooting a video because it didn't work for me.
So true. People tend to make it be about them. And I'll have, new clients who will come to me and say, I just want to make sure that, if I email you, you'll answer me, or if I'm stuck. Because what happened was they signed up for things that usually they did on a budget basis. So maybe it was a program that they could afford versus one that actually gave them the support they wanted. And then they didn't feel supported. And then what they tell themselves is, I failed because I did this program and I didn't make what I needed happen, when really they probably weren't getting the support that they really wanted to make that happen.
Right. And you mentioned something I think it's important for people to understand, and that's about investing in the right tools, the right resources, because sometimes we look at it from the wrong perspective, like, this is what I can afford, instead of what's going to give me the results I'm looking for.
Yes, that is such a good point. Yep.
Because people get stuck on that, like, I'm just going to take the cheap route. Well, if the cheap route doesn't generate clients for you, was it really cheap?
It wasn't, because you threw money out the window. And if you know that your style of learning is one where you really want hand-holding or personal attention, or like one-on-one guidance or to talk to someone, then your best investment is that program, because that's what's going to do what you need it to do versus you trying to save money. And so I hear from so many program junkies who have just bought program after program after program from clever marketing, and none of them helped them to get where they wanted to go. That's a waste of money.
Oh, yes. And I think with that, it goes back to people who are looking for that proverbial silver bullet, that the holy grail of whatever you want to call it, this one thing that's going to solve all their problems, and they're never doing the thing what they need to do in the first place, is look in the mirror and implementing.
So true.
There's that expression, you can read a book, you can watch YouTube videos all day long about how to ride a bike, but until you get your butt on the bike and ride it, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And if you know that you're someone who needs that bike held, like I remember when we were teaching my daughter to ride the bike, like you had to hold the back of the bike and run around in circles with them. So if you know that you need the back of your bike held, and then you try to convince yourself that you don't, because you don't want to ask for help, or you don't feel like you're worthy of support, or you feel like you should be able to do it alone, and then you get on that bike and it's terrifying and you don't do it, then you don't learn to ride the bike.
Right, exactly. And that's why people go through business course after business course.
Yes.
And they're full of just miscellaneous knowledge, but they don't implement. And also then the danger is, if they start learning from multiple people, they're going to have 1,000 different opinions about how to achieve a specific result, instead of figuring out how to just do it in the first place.
So true. So true.
And that causes the biggest issue. So obviously, when it comes down to marketing someone's business, the key thing is showing up authentically. How do you help your clients show up authentically so they don't appear douchey?
It's one of my absolute favorite words. It's so descriptive.
Oh, yes.
I actually use it in course titles because I love it so much. That's a really, really good question, because I think that the impetus now is to follow the herd, follow the group and do what other people are doing. And really, it looks authentic. And what will happen is you won't rock the hell out of it when you're actually doing it because it's not yours. So when I'm working with clients, I really push them to take the time to think about what's important to them. What's the message that they have for the world? What do they wake up wanting to do for their clients? And then to format their offerings according to that so that it's really, really authentic, because it doesn't matter how different it is, or, if you're not doing the same master classes or seminars that other people are. If you're actually flying your flag high, the people who need you are going to find you. It's when you try to stuff yourself into a box or say what everyone else is saying because obviously they're selling seats, that's when you get crickets. Because first of all, everyone's already doing it. And secondly, there's an energetic piece where you're holding back because this isn't really your thing. This isn't really your message. This isn't really your brilliance. And then you don't shine. And if you're not shining, the people who need you can't find you.
Right. Exactly. And that's so critical, is that people can find you where you need to show up.
Yeah.
And, speaking of finding, what is it that you think about, you'll hear people that are marketers, or I'm going to use little air quotes, that are saying, oh, you have to be everywhere. What are your thoughts about that?
No, you just have to be where your ideal clients are. You shouldn't be everywhere. How exhausting. Who could be everywhere? Then you're being in many, many, many different places, not very well, as opposed to some strategic places where your ideal client is and really waving that flag so that they can find you. I think that's bull hooey.
Oh, yes, definitely. You have to show up where they are, because I like to say to people, it's one of those comical expressions, because it just hits home. It doesn't matter how great of a steak you have. If you're marketing to a group of vegetarians, you're not going to do very well.
Yes, totally. That whole
about how many
dragnet.
people do that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
So many people do that. And that's what, not to get all hippie, but that's why we're depleting our oceans. Because instead of fishing for the tuna, they're dragging a net and dredging up the entire bottom of the ocean. And that whole throw my business card off the top of a building and hope my ideal client finds it, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's fear-based thinking, which means that it doesn't come from how you actually intuit that you're going to find your ideal client. It comes from, oh my gosh, if I just reach as many people as possible, maybe some of them will be ideal client. It's grasping and desperate. And that energy doesn't bring you aligned clients.
Right, exactly. And you mentioned something there in terms of that fear aspect, because there's this trend that you'll see people who are new into the entrepreneurial world that will say, oh, I don't want to do that because there's already people doing it. How do you help someone overcome that scarcity mindset when there's actually abundance in the world?
That is so, so, so important, because, and I say this to my clients all the time, if you're not working the inner pieces, if there are inner pieces that are kerflooey or uncomfortable, then the outer tools that you're using aren't actually going to work, which means that you're wasting your time. So one of the really important things that I do with my clients is to make sure that we're working two parallel paths. One is the inner stuff, right? Scarcity mindset, disconnection from the value of what you're offering, fear of visibility, inner critic voice, fraud or imposter syndrome. That's a big one. And make sure that we're doing that work so that when I give you the tools for the outer pieces, you can just implement them. You're not swimming upstream or crawling up a mountain on your knees over ground glass. You're actually just implementing them because you've cleared the stuff that's in the way.
Right. And that is vital of a process, because I think if you look at some of the marketing programs that are out there for businesses, they're all geared towards the mechanics of how do you get yourself out there. Oh, here's how you shoot a video. Here's all those little things. But that inner critic, that inner fear is holding someone back. And the moment they turn on the camera, it's so apparent. They're like, hi, everybody, I'm here.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, exactly.
And it doesn't serve them.
It doesn't serve them. So you've really you've just wasted your time because it's not aligned and you're not going to attract your ideal client and you're getting in your own way.
Right, exactly. And people have to get out of their own way. So you mentioned that imposter syndrome. And I think for so many people that appears because they're comparing themselves to someone who's already well established, like, oh no, I'm not like them. How do you help your clients overcome that so they can start prospering in their business?
Well, so we look a lot at where it comes from. I actually advise my clients not to bulldoze stuff like that when it comes up, because I don't know if you've ever had any experience with a tantruming child, but it's very similar. If you ignore a tantruming child or you try to make them be quiet, have you ever seen what happens?
Yeah, it doesn't go well.
They get way louder because what they're asking for is to be heard. A tantruming toddler feels like they're not being heard. And so actually one of the best things to do is to get down on their level and whisper in their ear and talk to them. And then they feel like they're being heard and they stop tantruming. And I actually think that all of those inner little trolls, like I like to call them little trolls. So the fears, the discomforts, the inner blocks and stories that we tell ourselves, they are at the same age level as a tantruming child. And the more you try to shut them up or ignore them, the louder they get because they actually really need to be heard in order to take it down a notch. So when I'm working with clients, we actually look at that stuff. We pull it out and look at it because if it's seen and heard, it doesn't make as much noise. And then what I help them to do is to learn ways to feel the discomfort and do the action anyway. Discomfort or fear, they're emotions, they're feelings. They're not actually, for most people, they're not actually physical manifestations. They're not literally things in your way. So once you can understand it and give it some attention, then you can acknowledge it and choose to do something differently anyway. And the hand holding that I provide helps that not be so uncomfortable. So it's a dual path of the inner pieces of acknowledging it and hearing it and understanding where it comes from. And then the external path of choosing to do something differently anyway. And then the support for them to say, okay, I did it. Or Britt, I'll do it by this date. Could you check in with me? Or Britt, I did it, but then I threw up. What's happening with that? So to not feel alone in it and feel supported.
Right, exactly. It's being able to do those things despite the fear that might be in place. You hear of performers who've been on stage for years, and that every time before they go on stage, they're puking their guts out.
Totally. It happens all the time.
Oh, yeah. But they do it anyways.
Right.
And
they don't not go on stage.
Right. They just know that the only way to do it is they have to push through that fear, and this is part of that process.
Yes. Exactly.
That some people, they get stuck like, oh my gosh, that anxiety, but they're like, bleh, and then they keep going.
Yeah.
Just make sure the Tic Tacs available shortly thereafter.
and Kleenex. Yes, absolutely. So you prepare for it, and you know that just because it's happening doesn't mean that you don't have to stop what you're doing.
Right, exactly. Now, obviously, overcoming those fears of the inner work, how is it that people should start showing up online? Because that challenge for someone who's becoming an entrepreneur is attracting those first clients. What are those ways that you see are most effective? Because if you think about it, that's that pivotal moment for a business owner when they can get that first client, because it means they can do it.
Yeah. This is such a big deal, and there's so much out there on this, but what really resonates for me is to begin, and this is the hard part, because this is not an overnight solution, and anyone that tells you that there's an overnight solution to building your community and signing clients when you're new is full of it. What I see working is to start building a community where you're loving them up all the time, and they begin to understand that you're there to help them, and you're going to do things that are of service for them, and that you're the go-to person, and that you have all this amazing stuff that you want to give them for free. And that way, when you launch something, they already know you. So we know, marketing 101 is that 3 things need to be in place, right? Familiarity, and trust. That's what people need to feel to buy from you. If you've just crawled out of the woodwork and there are a gajillion people doing what you already do, you're not going to sell things, because why would people buy from you? So the idea is to create a community of people who know you and trust you and like you. And then when you have things to offer them, they already know you. You've proven yourself. So the number one thing that I have my clients do is authentically and in a way that they really enjoy to be growing their community by giving content or videos or, master classes or articles or blogs or whatever, but to be figuring out what their ideal client needs help with and starting to help them.
Right, exactly. You have to start giving to attract the audience. I think that's where people are forgetting about this process, that they see that people who are going for the quick wins and not realizing it's just that it's a quickie. It's nothing long term. It's kind of like going for, like, let's say fast food versus a solid meal that, hey, this is great, but it's not going to help you long term.
Right. Exactly. So, so one of the things that I advise for my clients is to really look for that long term, and invest in that.
Right. It's something that's part of that process, because if you look at the people who are most successful now, it was a long-term plan. It wasn't something that they decided, I'm going to create a Facebook page today, and then tomorrow there's going to be 500,000 people who like it. Oh,
yeah. Oh, hang on one sec.
Oh, sure.
What? He's in the back.
Sorry, dog walker just got here. That's something that happens frequently in my house. You're going in for the marathon. It's not a sprint. Entrepreneurship is not a sprint. It's a long haul, and you need to make sure that you're growing a platform or a way to grow that community over the long term. It's not a throw up a shingle and do a 6-figure launch.
Right. And that's where they get this misconception about that they can just throw up that shingle. You see a lot of products that are produced and someone thinks, this is great. They made all this money, and then that's it. But their pattern is they do just little one-shots consistently.
Right.
It's nothing that's long-term.
Right. You need the consistent and persistent action. You need the sustainable plan. And that is what builds, the community, so that when you launch, people know you.
Right, exactly. And it takes time. That people have to be willing to invest in their business at long term. Look at what are the things that can put food on the table in the short term that builds value. But then the long term, it's what are the things that are going to keep people coming back? It's like, I'd say you're offering a free appetizer to someone knowing that they're going to want to buy the main course over and over and over, and occasionally buy dessert.
Exactly.
Not that I want to use a food reference, but, it works.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's the piece around really doing your research and making sure that the person that you're working with is established.
Right, exactly. Because you need that support and you need that credibility, because it makes a difference through everything.
It's so true. And that's why it's really a process of growing roots, not expecting to plant a seed and get an apple tree.
Right, exactly. Now, as you grow your business, what was that evolution? Because some people, they think that they have to have a large variety of products and programs out there. What do they really need, and how do they start adding to it so it doesn't, one, it prevents overwhelm, but then it makes logical sense as their business matures?
So they need a community, right? I have so many women come to me, and even a few men who say, I have this great product, it really gets results, or I have this offering, but every time I offer it, I get crickets. And I ask them how big their community is, and they're like, oh, it's 200 people. That's why there are crickets. So they need a community of people who are familiar with their work and who like them and trust them. And then they need an aligned offering. And honestly, in the beginning, it really doesn't matter what it is. It just needs to be authentic and aligned. And you need to be clear about what the results of doing it will be for your ideal client. And then the other piece that they need is a funnel that builds towards it. So another common piece of sort of marketing advice is that you need to allow people to say yes 3 times before you offer them something to buy for a fee. So you need a funnel that gives them tastes of what you're offering without asking them to buy anything, right? Because again, they need to trust you. So I like to, what I have my clients do is develop, maybe a video, maybe a blog posting, maybe like a quiz or some piece of information or a worksheet, something that they can do to deliver value to their ideal client leading up to, and by the way, if you really want more support around this, here's how I can help you.
Right. That's so important that you start off with something simple. And right now, what is it that you're advising your clients to leverage to get it out there, to start building their community? Obviously, since just putting it out there into the ether, like, look, here's my blog posts, that's probably not going to do much.
Right, exactly. Well, so it depends on their ideal client. And this is also something I like to have fun with this and sort of see what's pulling my ideal client. But I found that my ideal client prefers watching me to reading me. When my ideal client watches a video of me, they feel connected to me faster and they feel like they know and enjoy my work faster than if they're just reading. So I've started to do more video posts. And I'll just, sometimes I'll see something like I did a video rant sitting in my car waiting for my kid to get out of her after school program on the, a lack of integrity that I was seeing in the coaching field. Or one day I did, just things that get people to know you. But the important thing is you have to follow what's exciting for you. So if I hated doing videos and I just wanted to crawl under the bed when I did them, I wouldn't have chosen that. I actually like doing them. I think they're fun. I've been able to let go of what my hair is doing or, what the lighting is like if I'm doing a quick one. So people can tell that I like doing the videos and they attract people to me and people share them and that grows my community. But the important thing is to really think about is what would work best for your prospective clients and what do you like doing? Because you want the energy to be there. You want it to be something that you enjoy because they can tell.
Right, exactly. You have to enjoy it. And then if you don't enjoy any of it, maybe it's time to invest in some self-help to start enjoying one of them at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you can't be afraid of putting yourself out there and grow a business at the same time. They go hand in hand.
That will not, then you'll just hit walls.
Right, exactly. That's called being in a padded cell if you're trying to grow a business, yet you're afraid of putting yourself out there.
So true.
Right. Now, out of all the things that we discussed, because one of the things I'm passionate about is narrowing things down so people can take action. What's one thing someone can do today as an entrepreneur to just start growing their business?
That's a great question. 2 things, 2 simple things. One is to poll your community in whatever way you can to find out what the problems are that they're dealing with. And then hand in hand with that is to start offering solutions to the problems. Do a podcast, do a blog, do a video, do something that starts talking about what your ideal client is struggling with and how you can help. You can do a client story. You can talk about a time that it happened to you. You can do a rant about something that's really annoying you that you're seeing lately. But get yourself out there. I think that that's a really great way to allow people to get to know you and to start to talk about what is the transformation that you can provide. What is the thing that you can help people with when they're struggling?
Right, exactly. You have to let people know how you can help them. Otherwise, you're just putting out lots of great content with no call to action.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So now how can people get in touch with you to learn more about what you offer and how you can help them?
Yeah, so they can come on over to the website, which is just www.inarmscoaching.com, or they can find me on Facebook. There's an In Arms Coaching business page that's also linked to my name. So it's Britt Bolnick, In Arms Coaching. I love hearing from people. I'm super approachable, so people can PM me or drop me an email. There are a couple different freebies on my page to help people who are struggling with time management in their business or growing their business. So definitely come on by and feel free to reach out and tell me how I can help you.
Oh, excellent. Well, Britt, it's been a pleasure having you on the Big Movement podcast today and sharing your wisdom of how people can start living their life on their terms and being a foodie at the same time, and also understand how to put their message out there authentically and not be douchey.
I love that. Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.